Well, hello there, young men. If you are a young man, most of my audience are younger men. My audience tends to skew a little younger, 25 to 35-ish is the plurality of my audience. So if you are an old man, if you're an old motherfucker like me, I apologize. Just pretend I said, hello there, old man. That probably wouldn't be as flattering. But this is Caleb Jones, and this is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. I was thinking the other day, I was reminiscing about, and I don't do this very often. Matter of fact, I do this almost never. But I was thinking about, and you're about to find out why I don't think about this often, thinking about back when I was a beta. And so I was a beta male for, to one degree or another, about the first 15 years of my adult life. So from age 18 until I made my conversion to Alpha Male 2.0 when I was about 35. I started Alpha up a little before that, probably around 32, 33. I didn't really know what I was doing, but definitely started to Alpha up around then, and then really stepped into the Alpha Male 2.0 world when I was about 35. But getting out of high school and going into the work world, I skipped college. I went right into the work world. I've written about that at my blogs. And I was fortunate enough to make a decent amount of money at a young age because I worked very hard. I was very motivated. Money was a big driving factor for me. And one of the things that I sacrificed way back then in my early 20s was that I didn't date. And one of the primary reasons why I didn't lose my virginity until I was in my early 20s, 22 or 23, I don't remember, one of those 2 years, is because I was so focused on work. And I thought, probably incorrectly, that if I started having sex, then it would divert my focus, and I wanted to completely focus on making money. Now, that wasn't the only reason I didn't lose my virginity. There are others, but I've talked about these things in past podcasts and videos and blog posts and things like that. But that was one of the big reasons. And around that time, I worked for, so here's the progression. I started my first company while I was still working for one of my last two jobs. So the last job I had, full-time job I had, before I started my business in the early 90s, mid 90s now, when I was 24 years old, was I worked for Nike, the Nike headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. I worked there for about a year. Now, before that job, I worked for a large corporate bank at their corporate offices. This is a bank called First Interstate Bank. And if you're a young guy, you have no idea what that is. If you are my age or older, and especially if you live on the West Coast of the United States, you might remember First Interstate Bank. They were all over the place back then. And about a year after I left, they were gobbled up by Wells Fargo. So that is now the version of that bank. But anyway, I worked I didn't work at a branch. I worked at the corporate offices in downtown Portland. And I used to work in this very beautiful, a really amazing building in Portland, Oregon called Montgomery Park. It is actually the largest building in terms of square footage in Portland, even to this day. It's huge. Even though much of the building is hollow. There's a hollow atrium that goes all the way to the top. It's a really amazing old building. And it was actually a Montgomery Wards. Again, I'm dating myself here. If you grew up in the 80s or 70s, you might remember Montgomery Wards. They went out of business, and they turned that building into a big fancy office building. So I worked on the fourth floor, and I was about 22-ish at the time. And I'd already been working in the corporate world for several years. So by the time I was 22, I already had my own staff. I was a supervisor, and I was managing a staff of about 6 other guys. Almost all of them were older than I was. So I got the double size cubicle while they got the smaller typical cubicles, but I had a double cubicle. Ooh, 'cause I was so special being a corporate supervisor. Ugh, great. And I worked in the IT department. We did IT for the branches. There were about 2,000 branches. So we did remote IT work. This was before most corporations had outsourced all their stuff to India. So, we also did a lot of internal functions. So occasionally I would go around the building to other floors and coordinate with other departments in that building. And there was a woman who worked on the 6th floor right above me. I'm going to call her Athena. I actually mentioned her on one of my very old Blackdragon podcasts. That is not her real name, but it's very similar. Her name was a Greek goddess name. And she was super hot. She was older. I was 22, 23 at the time. She, I believe, was 31 at the time. Very early 30s, but really good looking. She was very short. but really attractive. One of those women where they have these tiny little petite bodies, but really, really big boobs. In other words, like perfect. Not much of a butt, but I didn't really discern back then. And really attractive. And we started talking, and I'm like, oh God, she is so pretty. There's no way I could ever date a girl this pretty. Oh, there's no way. Oh, she's so hot. All these one-itis-y thoughts. And, I didn't make any moves because I was too scared. And I also had a policy back then, and I still do, and I've written about this, where I don't have sex or date women I work with. If you do that, you cause all kinds of problems. And if you care about your job or care about your business, you will never, ever date or have sex or get sexual in any way with any women you work with. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. I guess if you don't care about your job or your business, then do whatever you want. But I cared, so I didn't do anything. So one of the models I followed back then is I would meet women at work, and then when they quit, or if I quit, I would make sure to have their cell phone number or some way of contacting them, even if it's an email address, so I could contact them and then try to go on dates with them after the fact, and then try to go out on a date or dates after the fact. Matter of fact, when I was a beta male before I got married the first time, that's pretty much how I dated all the women at that time, what few women there were, including the woman I married back then when I was 25. So that's how I met her, same exact system. So anyway, I eventually made enough friends with her where I got her contact information. And sure enough, I eventually moved on to Nike. So I left that company and moved on to Nike. And at a $10,000 a year raise, which back then, in the early 90s, it was a lot of money for me. So I was very excited. But then I wasted very little time. I don't remember how I did this or the scenarios under which I did this. I must have done it over the phone. I must have called her up, and because we didn't really text back then. Actually, we didn't text back then at all. This was like 1990, 1994-ish or so. And asked her out, and I was shocked. She said yes. I was shocked. I was shocked. I think the first date was, I want to say we had lunch somewhere. I don't remember, but I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God, this beautiful girl is actually going to go on a date with me. Holy shit, I can't believe it. And I don't know if you can relate, some of you guys who either are beta males or used to be beta males, remembering back on how that was. So we started going out on dates. And I don't remember the details because this was many, many years before I was Blackdragon, many, many years before I started tracking this stuff. I'm just going off my pure memory at this point, and it was so long ago. We're talking, 30 years ago, long time ago. I'm an old man. But anyway, went on a few dates. I never tried anything. I was too scared. I was terrified. And I was terrified. That's the thing, is when you have very little sexual or dating experience and you start dating a girl who is really, really hot, out of your league type stuff. Like, matter of fact, I recently got an email in my from an audience member saying, hey, Caleb, is the concept of being out of your league, is that a true concept? And I actually answered that question in my email newsletter. But anyway, don't want to get on topic here. This was a woman who I thought was out of my league. So I was very nervous and very scared and tried to proceed with massive caution. And that's what beta males do. They play it safe. They don't escalate to sex. They don't even try to kiss in many cases because, well, what if she doesn't like that? Well, what if she thinks I'm being too forward? Well, what if she gets mad at me and then she won't spend time with me anymore and she'll hate me and then she won't like me and then I'll never be able to date another girl who's pretty because this is the only girl who is pretty in the whole world, or at least the only girl who's pretty in the whole world who will actually date me because this is the only one. One-itis. I mean, these are the thoughts that beta males have. It's so strange because these thoughts today are so alien to me. I haven't even had thoughts like this in over 20 years. But back then, like most young men, that was my life. That was my existence as a beta. I remember, and as I'm talking about this, I remember these feelings. It's so funny. I was such a different man, at least in that respect back then. I was a kid. And I wasn't a virgin at this point. I'd already, let's see, if I remember this right, I had already lost my virginity earlier that year. So at least I had some level of confidence to actually make some moves on her physically. And eventually I got around to doing that. I can't believe she waited that long. But one day, finally, I got her over to my house. And by the time I was in my early 20s, I had my own house, owned my own house, 3-bedroom house in a decently nice neighborhood because I was making some good money. And but she was making more money than me, actually, or at least a little more. She was the what they call an AVP, assistant vice president. So back at in the corporate world, you have levels of vice president. If you didn't know, there's assistant vice president, junior vice president, executive vice president. So she was the lowest level of vice president. So I'm pretty sure at that time she made either more money than me or maybe a little more, maybe around the equivalent. So she was making decent money. And she was a single mom, by the way. So she had a daughter who I think was 5, who I met, I think, once. I hadn't met her yet at this point, but I got her over to my house. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm actually going to have sex. I'm going to have sex. Oh, I'm so excited. And one of the many reasons why men who lose their virginity late in life into their mid to late 20s, or God forbid their 30s, one of the biggest reasons, probably the biggest reason, is that they put sex on a pedestal. Sex becomes this really big deal, this massive, earth-shattering, godlike event that has this great level of importance. And they make it more important than it is. And they consider it more important than it is, rather than a very simple biological function that people do every day. It's like going to the bathroom, as I've talked about in prior podcasts. I mean, it really is. Sometimes literally. That's just what it's like. And but I didn't know that yet. I was not a virgin, but I was close. I think I'd only had sex with either 1 or 2 women by then. And I had just lost my virginity earlier that year. This was later in the year. This was around winter. Again, I think around 1994. Don't quote me that exact year. But anyway, I was so excited. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I called up one of my sisters. And I have 2 sisters. I have one sister who is beyond morbidly obese. She's almost 400 pounds. She can barely walk. And I have another sister who is skinny and pretty. And so I called the skinny pretty sister and I said, hey, I got Athena coming over. I kind of mentioned Athena. Oh yeah, Kill, we heard you were dating someone really pretty. I said, oh yeah. She's so hot. She's so amazing, blah, 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 beta male, one-itis, blah, blah, blah. I said, can you come over to my house and help me decorate or something? Cause I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. She's like, oh yeah. So she came over. She was very excited and, cleaned up my house a little bit, decorated it a little bit. She put a little boom box on the kitchen and put some romantic music on and had it playing. She goes, you need to have this playing when you guys come home and you walk in the door so she can hear the music. I said, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah. I'm so stupid. Yeah. So she left. She goes, let me know how it goes. Let me go. Let's go. Like, okay, I will. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my God. Athena's coming to my house. And so, let's see, did she drive over there or did I bring her? No, she drove over and came into the house. And I think we went out. Actually, we went out to dinner or something like that. Again, beta male. Went out to dinner, bought her dinner. Of course, I paid for all this shit. I was constantly buying her food, buying her lunch, and buying her dinner, and buying her all this bullshit. And we went out to dinner. We came home that night. I'm so excited. I could barely contain myself. I had to try to control myself. And she was looking so hot. Oh my gosh, she was so pretty. And even now, even when I think back, I've been with a lot of very, very, very beautiful women, far more attractive than her. But even now, as I look back, yes, she was attractive. So we walk in the door, the romantic music is playing. She goes, oh, actually, no, my sister was there. My sister wanted to meet her. She goes, I want to meet her. I was like, no, you'll fuck it up. She's like, I really want to meet her. I'm like, no. So my sister convinced me to meet her. So actually, she walked in. She goes, oh, you must be Amy. That's my sister. And she's like, hello. And they met and la, 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 la. And my sister did this thing where she walks away, then she turns back. And when Athena was looking, she gave me the thumbs up. Like, oh, she's so pretty. Like, yeah, I know. Oh my God, get the fuck out of here. I want to get laid. Okay. So she leaves. And I'm sure she got right on the phone and called my other sister and my mom, because that's what sisters do and mothers do. So she's over at my house, spent the evening at my house. And for the first time ever, we got sexual. And we were on the couch and we started making out. I was so nervous, but I was able to do it because I had sex. That's a lesson here, is that, and this is why I tell guys who are virgins well into their 20s or 30s, what you might have to do if you hit a roadblock here mentally, you might just have to go pay a hooker 2 or 3 times, or a sugar baby. A hooker might be better, just to get your brain accustomed to the concept of escalating sexually on a woman. It's a chicken and the egg thing when you're a virgin. You want to sexually escalate, but you have no context for it. So you don't do it because you're too scared or don't know how. So at a bare minimum, I knew how to escalate. I knew how to do that because I had sex with the woman I lost my virginity to, a married woman who I've talked about in the past. I had sex with her many, many, many times. So I was comfortable enough to sexually escalate with Athena on the couch. And we made out and she was amazing. She was an amazing kisser. And most women don't kiss very well, but she was very, very good at it. And she kissed me in a way that I had never been kissed before. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Oh my God. And so we were on the couch, and then we made out kind of like against the wall. And then we kind of sat. I remember this now. It's so funny. It's like 30 years ago. I remember this stuff. We would sit on the little platform right in front of my little fireplace, and she was on my lap, and we'd make out there. But I could not bring myself to grab her boobs, grab her ass, take her clothes off. I couldn't do it. I was too scared. I was too pussy. I was too beta. At one point, I remember I was on the couch and she was on top of me, fully clothed, and not grinding me, but she was definitely on top of me, and she had to like adjust her boobs because they were in the way or something. She goes, hang on, I got to make an adjustment. And she like adjusted her bra. And that probably was some kind of cue to me to get more intimate, but I was a beta. I didn't know. I was stupid and I was scared, and I didn't fucking do anything. So we ended up, how embarrassing is this bullshit? We ended up just sleeping on the couch separately from each other all night. We just stay up and talk, kiss a little bit, and then eventually we would just sleep. She slept on one corner of the couch. It was one of these L-shaped couches. One side of the L, and I was on the other side of the L just to sleep next to her. I wasn't even next to her. I was just across from the couch. Oh God, Caleb, you fucking pussy. You know, sometimes I have these thoughts of me going back in time in a time machine and yelling at my young beta male self the way I yell at you, a lot of you younger guys. God damn it, Caleb. Younger Caleb, what a dumb fuck. Oh my, I would be so angry if the young version of me was doing this right now and told me the next day, hey, older Caleb, I had Athena over my house and we made out and we slept on the couch. we didn't have sex and never got our clothes off. Isn't that awesome? Oh, I would kick my ass. God damn it. Anyway, so the next morning, she brushed her teeth and she left. And we saw each other a few more times. We never had sex. And a few weeks later, maybe a month or two later, we dated, we kept seeing each other, but we never had sex. I could never pull the trigger. And I've mentioned this before in the past, a long time ago. I was in my little office. Oh, I finally quit Nike and I started my own business. So this happened during all this period of time. And maybe just a few weeks after I went full time with my business, I was sitting in my new office in downtown Portland, and I got a letter in the mail from her. This is pre-internet. I mean, there was an internet back then, but no one used it except for nerds like me. I used email and some other stuff on the internet, but very few people actually used the internet back in the mid 90s. So people used letters, actually a written letter. It was a written letter from her. Oh, actually, let me put this in context first. I forgot. So I called her up to go out and she said she was busy. And then I said, oh, cool. And we talked a little bit and then I hung up. And then maybe a few days later, I called her up again to ask her out again. And same thing. She's like, oh, I'm kind of busy. And she goes, I'll be right there, honey. I'll be right there, honey, talking to her daughter. Kind of like that, like get this fucking asshole off the phone. I went, oh, okay, I could take a hint. So it was 3 or 4 days after that, I got a letter in the mail. And it's this like 2-page letter saying that she had gone back to her ex-boyfriend. Now, for context on that, this is a man who she would regularly complain about. I'm sure this never happened to any of you. She would regularly complain to me because basically I was really a friend zone dating partner at that point. She would complain about this guy, how he lived a very uninspired life and how there were 2 or 3 times where he slapped her daughter, like on the top of her head. I don't remember if he physically slapped Athena or not, but he might have. I don't remember. It was just complaint after complaint after complaint. He inherited a little money, not a lot of money, but some. So he didn't have a job. So he just kind of, hung around his house all day and didn't do anything. And she would complain about that and nonstop complaining while we were dating in quotes. We never had sex. I don't know what you call it. But anyway, while I was taking her out and buying her dinner and lunch for no fucking reason. And this was the man that she went back to. She went back to so-and-so, I forget his name, and we're going to, give it a shot and da-da-da-da. And you're a really nice guy. And I hope that someday you find the right girl and you're just a great guy. You're just such a nice guy. Nice guys finish last. Isn't that some old YouTube song? Oh, and I was like, oh no. And I have mentioned this before. My first thought was not that, oh no, she broke up with me. I'm so sad. My first thought, honestly, even back then as a beta was, now where am I going to get sex? Oh, great. It's going to be months before I have sex again. God damn it. And it ruined my day. And I had a few shitty days. I'm just like, oh, this sucks. And I didn't even have sex with her. And oh, I'm such a beta. I'm such a pussy. And I didn't have the beta terminology, but whatever. And back then, and I've mentioned this before, I did not have any dating skills. And the challenge when you don't have dating skills, even if you have good relationship management skills, which I didn't have those either, but the challenge is when women dump you, not if, but when they dump you, which is what they're biologically wired to do, you have to be able to replace them very quickly. Even if you unfortunately decide to pursue a monogamous lifestyle, puke, gross, why would you do that? But even if you do, you still need a really solid set of dating skills, because when your girlfriend breaks up with you, you're gonna have to go find a new one. And I didn't have that skill. So I had to start all over again. And I was right. It took me months and months and months and months before I had sex again. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering this correctly, the woman I had sex with after Athena was my first wife, the one I ended up marrying. This is the kind of thing that you experience when you are a beta male, when you are not confident, when you are outcome dependent, when you are nervous to escalate, sexually escalate on a woman. And if you don't know what that means when you're in isolation with a woman who is clearly and obviously attracted to you, you making physical moves to initiate sex, or at least get very sexual. Because as the man, you have to initiate. It's not like the movies where women jump on top of men and tear their clothes off. That doesn't happen in real life, with rare exception, unless a woman is drunk. 99% of the time, if she's not drunk, you are going to have to initiate and escalate in terms of creating that sexual environment as the man. And if you're a beta male, you won't have the confidence or the context or the experience to do that. This is the kind of thing you experience as a beta male. Now, if you are a beta male, you already well know what I'm talking about. Many of you are already living a lifestyle just like this, or similar to this. Maybe not quite as bad, but similar to. Some of you are living what lifestyles worse than this, where perhaps you are going on multiple dates, sometimes with multiple women over and over again, and never having sex, or carrying on long friend zone relationships with women you find very attractive, who you wish you could have sex with, but you can't, and you never will, because you'll never escalate, and you've allowed her to put you in that friend zone box, which is pretty much what I did with her, more or less. And I just remembered this. This is on top of the fact that she was concerned about the age difference. Women generally don't date younger men. And so I don't remember the number, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 years younger than her. And occasionally when we went out on our dates, she would bring that up. She was like, but you're so young. I mean, you're 24 or 23 or however old I was. I don't remember. And I said, so what? I make good money and I have my own house and, I live like a, real adult. And she goes, yeah, I know. That's very impressive. And she would say, matter of fact, she was the woman who said, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, and it's kind of prophetic. She said to me toward the end, when she knew that her and I would never have sex, she said something to the effect of, nerds age better. So in other words, the nerds in high school are the ones where when they grow up, all the women want to marry them. It's not the jocks who, when they grew up, the women want to marry them. It's the nerds. So the nerds in their 30s and 40s are the ones who get all the hot girls, because those are the ones that the hot girls want to marry. Now, there's way more to that story. I've written articles about that. She's right, but these are the over 33 women who want to marry the nerds after they fucked all the jocks throughout their 20s. She didn't say that part. But anyway, one of the other things she mentioned once to me was, weird how all these thoughts are coming back up. I've never really sat down and analyzed this time of my life. She said to me once, when she was worried about this age difference, I said, what's the difference? So what? You're 8 years older. Who cares? It's fine. We're both young. I mean, you're still young and hot, and I'm young, and who gives a shit? And she goes, okay, well, let's say that we get really serious. Okay. And let's say that, let's say we get married. Let's say, hey, it could happen. Let's say we get married. And I'm getting all excited, like, oh my God, she's talking about marrying me. Oh, this is so great. But anyway, so she would say, let's say we got married. All right. So she says, and again, prophetic words in many respects. Okay. So let's say, fine. So let's say, 20, 30 years later, I'm in my 50s and I look like a woman in her 50s, and you will be like in your early 40s. And early 40s, I mean, you're going to be looking good. I mean, you're going to be looking good. You have that baby face. You're going to be looking good. Men look good. in the early 40s. I mean, that's like prime time for a man. You'll be looking all good, and I'll be a woman in her 50s. And, you'll be looking at these hot younger girls with these tight little butts, and I'll be this woman in her 50s. She literally said this. Interesting. So interesting on many, many, many levels. Little did she know who she was talking to or how that man she was talking to would end up. But I digress. My point is that when you live the lifestyle of a beta male, when you put that kind of constraint on your life, because that's what you're doing when you're a beta. That's exactly what you're doing. You're putting constraints on yourself. The alpha male, and regardless of alpha male 1.0 or 2.0, the alpha male doesn't have these constraints, doesn't have these limitations. He's confident enough, and he has the skill and the experience and the context to be successful with women when he wants to be. He has that context, including alpha male 1.0s. The beta male doesn't. And the problem is the beta male wants to. As a beta male, you will desperately want those things which you can't have. Sex with women, quality relationships, or maybe sex with very attractive women, women you consider a 9 or a 10 or an 8 or what have you. If you're a beta male, that you're not going to pull that off, with rare exception. And the rare exception would be if you make a lot of money, I guess, and you pay hookers, or you marry a pretty girl post age 33 after she's been fucked by a bunch of alpha males. So barring those rare exceptions, you're not going to get that unless you choose to become an alpha male. And that experience was one of the many reasons why 10 years later, I made the decision to become an alpha male. I made the decision that I'm going to have abundance in my life, not only financially, but also with women. I should be able to have sex with attractive women whenever I feel like it, whenever I want. And I made that decision even during my first marriage. I've talked about this many times. When I was in my early 30s, I sat down and wrote out on a blank Word document at a park one day the type of man that I wanted to be. And that's when my alpha male conversion and my alpha male journey began. And there were some bumps along the way those first few years, definitely, but I got there pretty quick. And starting in 2007 at age 35, by the end of that year, that's where I was. I had the ability to bring new women into my life who were just as good looking, if not, and many times way better looking than Athena was, and get to sex with those women relatively quickly. Not as quickly as later, I mean, a few years later after that, but still relatively quickly. Light years beyond that young, timid, not confident, one-eyed beta male I was in my early 20s. And having lack of success with women because you're a beta is just like having lack of success with money. It's the same thing. You tolerate it because you're comfortable. You're comfortable with it and you're used to it. I was weird. Maybe for some reason in my personality, I said, I hate this. This is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. Unfortunately, as soon as I started getting some context, I got traditionally monogamously married, which is the next mistake I made. But in many respects, the reason I got good with women as fast as I did once I made those decisions was the same reason that I reached reasonably high income in my younger years. I hated not having any money. I hated being late on my bills. I hated that feeling. There's a huge swath of humanity that apparently doesn't mind being, if not poor, lower middle class and having constant financial problems and, making $22,000 a year for 10 years straight. And they hate it. They don't hate it. They don't like it, but they put up with it. I couldn't put up with it. I hated it. And I viewed women as the same way. I hated fantasizing about sleeping with attractive women and knowing in my heart that it would never happen because I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have the confidence. I hated that feeling. And so when I got divorced at age 35, I very clearly and confidently said, okay, now I can become the man that I've always wanted to be. Now I can get this confidence. Now I can practice these skills. Now I can learn these skill sets. I'm going to do this even if I do it wrong, even if I'm nervous the first few times, even if I fuck up. By the way, all those things were true. I've written about this before. That first year with women, I made a lot of mistakes and I was scared sometimes and I was embarrassed sometimes and I fucked it up sometimes. So what? So what? I said, well, I can go through this process and get to what I want, or I can go back to being that timid beta male with the super attractive woman on my couch and sleeping next to her like a fucking pussy and feeling terrible the next morning and for the rest of the year and then having her dump me. The choice is clear. I'd rather be an alpha male. And so you've got to get to the point. If you can relate to this story, if you can relate to these feelings, if you're a beta or a recovering beta, if you can get to the point where you find these things as intolerable and painful, not just uncomfortable and irritating, but painful, that's when you'll start to make these changes. When you look at yourself in the mirror and say, that's it, I am not going to live this way anymore. I am not going to sit back and fantasize about having sex with attractive women. I'm not just going to jerk off to porn and stare at attractive women on a goddamn computer screen. I'm actually going to go out into the real world and have sex with hot, not just cute, hot, what I consider hot, and this is you talking now, because everyone has a different opinion on what is hot. Women I consider hot. I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to go through the process. I'm going to make the mistakes. I'm going to feel the awkward feelings sometimes. And I'm going to eventually cross over into alpha male status where I can have abundance in my woman life. And fortunately for you, you have me to help you, because I didn't have a me to help me. And I've mentioned before how a lot of my content, indirectly at least, is written toward the type of beta male that I was in my early to mid 20s. The information I wish I had. Just about all of the Blackdragon dating books, the Ultimate Open Relationships Manual, Get to Sex Fast, which tells you how to handle first and second dates, the Ultimate Younger Woman Manual, all these things. Even the Ultimate Open Marriage Manual. All those books are the books that I wish I had back when I was that young beta male. They're all available at calebjones.com. You can take a look if you want. But you have this a lot easier than I did. If you are the type of beta male who wants to be successful with women, you have not just my information, you have an entire internet full of information to help you. If you don't like my approaches, that's fine, use someone else's. But you don't have the excuse of ignorance like I did and like a lot of other men in my generation and generations before mine had, where we didn't have a Caleb Jones or a Blackdragon or a Red Pill World or an internet or any of this, or PUA skills. We didn't have this stuff. We had to learn it all on our own. We had to figure this shit all out on our own. And the only resources we had were men who were called naturals. And the problem is you can't really learn from a natural because he doesn't really even know why he's successful with women, because that's just how he's born. These naturals are the guys who say, just be confident. Well, that doesn't fucking help. How does that help you? So fortunately, you have my help. And that is one of the reasons I am here, to help you build a lifestyle, the Alpha Male 2.0 lifestyle specifically, where you have abundance in your woman life. You have however number of women you want in your woman life. If that's 2 women, 3 women, 5 women, 10 women, hopefully the number is somewhere between 2 and 5. Those are more manageable numbers of women who are very, very, very attractive to you. And that's why I'm here. I don't want anyone to go through what I had to go through. I don't want any of you to feel those feelings that I had to feel, because they sucked. And again, if you are that kind of man now, you already know how bad it is. And I'm saying you got to make it worse. In your mind, you got to make it worse, or you won't make these changes. Please make these changes. Take the time, take the effort. It's not only worth it, it's more worth it than you can possibly imagine. And I mean that literally, especially in my life in the last few years, including this year. Things that I've done in my woman life that are beyond my wildest fantasies. And by the way, these things are not like things that happened 4 or 5 years ago and haven't happened again. This year, shit's happened. And matter of fact, recently shit's happened. Can't talk about it. Stuff that would blow you away in terms of my woman life. That it would not be possible if I had not made that decision so many years ago to become an alpha male. And to learn these skills and to get these contexts and to work up my outcome independence and my confidence. Think about that. Please do that. I want you to experience what I have. That is one of the reasons I'm here to help you, is I want you to experience the happiness that I get experience on a regular basis. I don't want you to sit at home and stare at the wall and say, how do I get a pretty girl? I don't want you to live that way. That's not the way a man lives. If you want more help, there's the SMIC program at joinsmic.com. You can also, if you're listening to this before December 1st, you probably are, the Focus program, enrollment for that is open, where I can work with you one-on-one on these skills plus business skills for an entire year, plus a small group of guys. Plus you get all of my courses and all of my books for free. And the link to that, just go to calebjones.com and click coaching at the top, and the Focus program and the SMIC program are both there. I'm here to help you. Really think about this stuff. I will see you very soon. Have fun.